Okay guys, so this is going to be game one of the matchup against the Storm version. That is the Fissure Storm, the blue Esper Storm. Um, at first, you're not sure exactly what it is, but a good hint, as you can see on this turn, is going to be when the spring leaf drums come out. Those are kind of an important part for the mana generation for that deck. I'm going to, of course, get the planes so I can throw out my turn 2 missionary. My hope with this deck is to kill off the familiars as soon as possible. That's really going to want to be your target because those really help the storm go off. Make sure their spells, big things like deep analysis cost only 1 blue. They also get down the Ravnica lands, and as you'll see, they untap those repeatedly with things like the fairies and the snaps. So, if possible, you want to get as much damage in and gain some life. You want to kill off creatures that are familiars and reduce that. Once he goes off, you're kind of stuck. You reach this point in this game where you've gained so much life, and what he's attacking with are 1/1 creatures. So you reach this point in this matchup where all you're going to be doing really is stalling for time. Unlike the version of Storm with the Warrens, I feel this deck has a lot of power when it comes to the Warrens matchup. Even if, it's after sideboarding. You do have the Echoing Decays, you do have the Nauseous in deck for when those Warrens come out. And there are some tricks to getting around things like the Sledder for Warrens, for example. But you really don't have a good matchup in this one. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that 9 times out of 10 you're going to lose this matchup. Big things to help with this, like I said, you want to make sure to kill familiars. Another big thing if you're running another deck and you're just looking for ideas is to run some kind of land destruction. I know I run mono black a lot in tournament play, and you can bring in Choking Sand, stuff like that, to kill these, and that kind of slows them down. Like I said, they're going to draw a whole bunch of cards, and you want to kill these familiars as soon as possible. These ones are a little tougher, the white ones, because they are 3 toughness. There is not much you can do there. So all I'm doing, as you can see, is I'm going to go through and I am going to kind of stall for time. I'm going to kill stuff when I can. I'm going to gain a whole bunch of life, and it's kind of not going to matter. There you go, Echoing Decay on the Knights. Escape Familiars is a great thing. Excuse me, I'm choking over here. So, if you can stop those, that's great. You make them wait longer to be able to, start comboing off. But once they get, multiple of the Ravnica lands in play, as of now, like you can see, and he's got a full hand, so these Cloud of Fairies are coming down and snap, and they're going to just keep untapping these lands so they can play. Most of their cards are going to end up being just 1 blue in cost because of the 2 familiars in play. And so every time they tap these 2 lands, they're building up a ton of extra mana. It's white mana, but that doesn't really matter because they change colors with the Springleaf Drums with all these untapped creatures. You see he snaps and returns, stuffed fairies to hand, Mull Drifters, so he can draw more. In this specific game, I'm sitting at a point where there's not much I can do. I know I'm going to try and blink this on my next turn. I know because he's playing this that I am not going to sacrifice the Terrific. I leave it in play, so when he does play that Fissure bounce card, I can, in response, sack the Terramorphic. I can blink the Rift Watcher, and so those 2 will survive it. And hope that he does not have another. Yeah, here he goes with the Fissures. He's going to target all my permanents, and I believe a couple of his own, so he can keep comboing. And like I said, I'm going to bust the Terramorphic. I'm going to blink the Rift Watcher so that they survive this initial fissure. The next thing I'm going to hopefully do, as you'll see here, is he's going to just keep drawing and keep drawing. So I'm going to hope that I can stall for time until he decks out. It's really, I think, one of the only things you can do in this match. It's really tough. This is a pretty strong deck, and we have mass kill, but if you don't draw them, it's tough. You can, get to a point where you're still playing 2 lands. Things like Echoing Decay and Nausea are cheap and easy to play, even with the bounce. But, you know, in the end, he builds up so much mana, and he puts out all these little creatures, and they're going to swing at you for 1 to 2 life, and it just adds up. So I'm sitting here, you see he's at 7 cards, and I'm at 32 life. So my hope is that I can play these planes, he didn't bounce my other land, so I can get Missionary. I'm sitting at 36 life, and I just need to survive for 6 more turns. I'm going to chump block where I can, you know, getting rid of another familiar just in case. He's going to bring back the Fissure to bounce both my lands for the cost of 1 blue. And like I said, I remove his graveyard just in case he's got any more, and I'm down to 5 turns and stalling for time. Another important thing to note is the clock. Like I said, the only way you're going to win these matchups, in my opinion, is to stall for time. The Fissure bounce is really strong against this deck, and there's not a lot that you can do. You know, Missionary gaining more life, wasting more time. It's going to take him forever to attack with these 1/1s. He's down to 4 cards in deck. You know, it shouldn't be so bad. I did, at this point, forget about the regeneration on the Nightscape Familiar, but there really wasn't anything else I could block anyways. So, I might as well save that 1 damage. Unfortunately, I can play a Swamp and kill a Muldrifter, but I'm going to be dead anyways. So, there's no real point. What I did is I played the Bog. It goes on the stack. It stalls him for even a second more. You see at this point he's down to only 12 minutes a time. I only had to hold off for 3 more turns, but I just could not do it, even against these, 1 damage attackers. Okay, so we're going into game 2. Let's take a look at what my sideboarding options are. There are the Prismatic Strands, which I can bring in, and I believe I did. They can be helpful, because all his attackers are going to be blue, with the exception of 4 Nightscape Familiars, and you're going to try and kill those Familiars off as fast as possible again. You really don't have a lot of other choices. You can bring in the Negates to cancel some of his card draw in the Deep Analysis. Crypt Rats can come in. Again, they only have 1 or 2 toughness, so if you can have it in play, maybe keep it in play long enough to get it off in response to his Fissure play. That's fantastic. Hydroblast is useless. Dispel, not really going to be a big help. You can also bring in the Doomblades. The matchup's not necessarily long, so things you can take out would be like the Serrated Arrows. It's a bit slow. It will kill most of his creatures, but you have to wait until turn 4 before you can even use it, if you have it in hand. So turn 4 he may have already completed his combo, and it could be game. So I took those out, I believe, and it's really, so you want to look at those slower cards. I think I took out the Prohibits too, because the matchup doesn't help a lot. You can use them if you have the Snaps, but other than that, they're not gonna hold a lot of use. This was my opening hand. It was pretty good when I saw potential for another turn 2 Lone Missionary. Again, going into this, my opponent's at he's just at 11 minutes or so, 11:30, and my plan is to stall. I know that this is a bad matchup, and anyone can feel free to correct me on this if they know, some mistake I'm making, some stupidity that I am unaware of as far as this matchup goes. Please let me know, because, big help for me. But so, getting the Swamps out, I want to make sure that I have, all the mana so that when I throw out my Rift Watcher, I can throw out the Muldrifter, I can Edict if need to. Again, since my plan is to stall next turn, I'm going to throw out the Rift Watcher so that I can gain as much life as possible. When he finally goes off, he's going to have to take a number of turns to beat me with the 1/1 flyers and his, 1/3 oracles, etc., etc. I can save the Edicts if he throws down an early, especially the Wall Familiar. That's a big help at this point, because I have the Edicts. I brought, I guess, extras in for this game, so that when that comes down, at least it's killing something. In the early game like this, where he has no other option but perhaps the Wall Familiar, then it's a great card to have. See, now you can see I could have drawn cards with the Muldrifter, but again, my strategy at this point is to stall for time, so I'm gaining as much life as possible before he actually is able to complete his combo. Here comes the Familiars, and I do have an opportunity now, like I said, because they are alone, to kill it, but And here comes the fairies. He did have a land in hand, so it is not so great. He has the two Ravnica lands that he needed. He's going to keep on tapping them and draw cards. Uses the snaps, replays the fairies, building up tons of mana, as you can see here. Drums come down, and here comes the fissures. Now, the only benefit I can see here is, like I said, you do manage, I think he has to only be running like 2, maybe 3 fissures in his deck. Last game I only saw 2. He was down, like I said, to 5 cards left in deck that I did not see. So you do have several opportunities where you can get to that 2 mana drop, even though he has completely wiped your board. So it's not a bad position to be in. I have the mana and the missionaries. I have to discard a whole bunch of cards this turn, but I do have, like I said, the opportunity to replay Mystics on my next, I'm sorry about that, Missionaries on my next turn, to keep gaining life and stall for a little more. He's going to keep drawing cards, and he's eventually got to beat me down with all these Muldrifters. You see he's got to draw, all of his deck out, play out all of these fairies. And you have to, like, force him to beat you. He's doing all this draw right now. He's searching, I know, for that second fissure. Again, on the assumption that he has 2. He has to dig for it. And he can. This deck has a lot of draw. He's running the researches, he's got the deep analysis, he's got the Muldrifters, the oracles. It's really not a big deal for this deck to search out the cards he needs. But actually, I decided here, I believe, let's see, yep, to decay the Muldrifters. Going back to stall for time, he's clearly digging for those. He's spent most of his combo, so if he does go off, I think it's going to be slower. And his big damage is going to be the Muldrifters. If I get another Echoing Decay, I would hit the fairies, I think. So I get rid of those, and I know, or at least I'm going on the assumption that I can replay a Missionary next turn, or Rift Watcher, which would be able to block his creatures and still live, as well as gaining life. It's important to gain that life. He's sitting down. You see now he's gotten to 2 minutes and 32 seconds. The only thing that's really saving me is the fact, like I said, that they have so little damage. So when you gain life, you really throw off their plans. It also helps that he has pretty much stalled out and has been unable to find that extra fissure. Yeah, you can see now he's down to 2 minutes. I'm guessing he didn't draw the fissure again. He realizes if he attacks, I'm going to be able to block his fairies and kill them off. He's only going to get through, 5 damage after I block a fairy. And he knows I still have 2 missionaries in hand. What he doesn't know is the strands. I would have been able to really hold out this game and really stall for time. I might even have been able to win this game based on probably deck out. I don't think I can get through with enough creatures after having, my board wiped like that, but I could have at least won by deck out, since he has played most of his combo pieces. All he's going to get is draw, which can be played fast, but he really needs more creatures, and I've slowed him enough that when he gets that fissure, he's still not going to have time. And I may have been able to deck him out by the time he draws it. It's one of those things, for all you know, it could be at the very bottom of your deck, and you draw and draw and draw, and finally get it, but don't have enough to beat me. You're going to lose on your next turn. So, yeah, this is your tougher matchups. It is winnable, but it's very, very, very hard. Again, probably 9 times out of 10, you can expect to lose this. So, my suggestion, honestly, is to stall as long as possible. That's where you bring in the strands and stuff like that. Gain as much life you can and try and clock them out. It's going to be one of your better options.